Welcome back to the visual dynamics of Upper Paleolithic art. I'm Julia, and today we're going to peel back the layers of one of humanity's oldest mysteries. How did the very first figurative depictions, those haunting animal outlines deep in the caves, actually come to be? Now, if you've been following along with our previous episodes, you'll know we've talked a lot about perception, about how our brains are wired to see meaning in the world around us. But today, we're diving into the heart of the puzzle, inspired by Derek Hodgson's groundbreaking article that really shook up the field back in 2008. Before Hodgson, most theories about cave art were, well, a bit like chasing shadows. Fascinating, but impossible to test. Hodgson changed all that by bringing in neuroscience and perceptual psychology, and suddenly we had a way to actually experiment with these ideas. So, let's set the scene. For years, people thought the earliest two-dimensional depictions, those beautiful horses and bison, first appeared in Europe around 35,000 years ago. But then, discoveries in Indonesia pushed that date back to over 51,000 years ago, with images of animals, hybrid figures, and those iconic handprints. But here's the thing. Before anyone was drawing animals, people were already leaving their mark with handprints and by enhancing natural rock shapes, just adding a few lines to bring out a face or a creature that was already half there in the stone. These were rare, almost accidental, but they set the stage for what was to come and planted the idea that something could be represented graphically. Think about what it must have felt like to step into those caves for the first time. Imagine it, you're holding a flickering torch. The air is thick and cold, and every shadow could be a lurking animal. The walls themselves seem to move, shapes shifting in the half-light. It's not just about making art, it's about survival, about being hyper-aware of every contour and crevice. And really, I think I'd have been absolutely terrified. But maybe that's exactly what made those early artists so attuned to the magic in the rock. Where was I going with this? Oh, right. The point is, the environment itself was almost begging to be transformed into images. And that's where the story of the very first depiction really begins. Now, let's talk brains, because as Hodgson and others have shown, our brains are basically animal detection machines. There's actually a part of the visual cortex that's specialized for encoding animal forms, and it's still there in modern humans, even if most of us only see animals on the telly or in the park. This isn't just a quirk, it's the result of millions of years of evolution, where spotting a predator or prey quickly could mean the difference between life and death. And it's not just the visual cortex. Our emotional brain, the amygdala, lights up too, especially when we see animal shapes, whether they're real or just a few lines on a wall. What's amazing is that studies show the same brain regions activate, whether you're looking at a real animal, a detailed photo, or just a simple line drawing. Even minimal cues, like a shadow flickering on a cave wall, can trigger that recognition. It's like our brains are primed to see animals where there might only be a hint. I mean, I remember once as a kid, I was walking home at dusk and I saw this shadow dart across the path. I was absolutely convinced it was a fox, heart pounding and everything. Turned out it was just a branch swaying in the wind. But that's the thing. Our brains would rather make a false positive than miss a real threat. And for those ancient cave explorers, that hair-trigger perception was probably always on the cusp of release. So when you're in a cave, nerves jangling, torchlight flickering, and you see a shape that could be an animal, your brain does the rest. It completes the image, sometimes even before you're fully aware of it. And that's not just a personal quirk, it's a survival strategy, one that's deeply embedded in our neural wiring. As we discussed in a previous episode, this tendency to see meaning in ambiguous shapes, pareidolia and hyperdolia, wasn't just a curiosity, it was a crucial part of how early humans interacted with their world. And it's this same mechanism that helped turn random rock features into the first animal depictions. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Not everyone experiences visual imagery in the same way. Some people, maybe those early artists, are especially prone to vivid mental images, a phenomenon called hyperphantasia. Others, not so much. Most of us are somewhere in the middle. But research shows that people with more vivid imagery are better at picking out objects in degraded or ambiguous scenes, and they're more likely to be creative or artistic. So it's possible that the first cave artists were those individuals who could see animals in the chaos of the cave wall, where others just saw random shapes. And it wasn't just about individual imagination. Studies using virtual reality and 3D modelling, like those at Chauvet and La Pasiega, have shown that the natural contours of the cave walls were often deliberately incorporated into the animal drawings. In some cases, researchers even found new depictions by following the same visual cues that ancient artists might have seen. It's almost as if the cave itself was a collaborator, offering up suggestions to anyone with the right kind of mind to see them. And in group settings, this tendency to see images could become even stronger, especially during rituals or moments of intense focus. Suddenly, a few people's visions could become shared, entrenched, even sacred. So I can't help but wonder, if you gathered a group of people today and put them in a dark, echoing cave, who would be the first to see animals in the stone? Would it be the artists, the dreamers, the ones who always see faces in clouds? Maybe those are our modern cave artists, still seeing magic where others see only rock. Anyway, that's all for this episode, so take care the next time you go into a cave. You never know, you might begin to see animals.